Good afternoon. I call the meeting to order for the church's annual meeting of 2025. I would encourage folks who are at the back to come forward, just make it easier for everybody to hear you. But since it's our recording secretary there in the back, I'm all set. My name is Harry Goat. I am the moderator for the church. The meeting guidelines are you do not need to be a member of the church to be here and listen to what we're talking about, but you need to be a member to actually vote. When you make a motion or offer a comment, I would ask that you raise your hand, let me call on you, and it'd also be helpful if you state your name just for us to get the benefit of the people who are doing the recording. Does anyone need a copy of the annual report? There are copies if you need. Karen, Dave, are there additional copies? Yeah. Okay. So we may need 3 or 4 or so.
I'll sacrifice mine and share with somebody else. You want this one?
So Dave, Karen needs one in the back.
Here you go.
Okay.
I better take it there. Another one? Need one?
The presumption is that everybody's had a chance to read these reports. They've been out for a week or two now. So when we call up the reports, I'm not going to be reading through them or asking you to read through them quietly. The presumption, once again, is that you've read them. I'll be calling out the names of the different reports, and I'll ask if there are any questions or comments on the reports. At that time, you can let us know or let me know if you have any questions or comments. We're not voting on every report, with the exception of 3 situations. So we'll be voting on the budget for the church when it's presented. We'll be voting on the nominating list of officers for the church and committee members. And we'll also be voting on the list of people who are being moved to the inactive list in the church. Okay? Any questions? All right, the first. Kathy. We're going to be getting to that, Kathy, at the end of the report, so I'll do it sequentially here. So the first report that comes up is the minutes of the 2024 annual meetings. Starts on page 4. Are there any questions or comments on that report? Followed by the message to the minister on page 5. Are there any questions or comments on the message to the minister? Dave?
I would like to add a few things as I was reading last night. These items that I'm about to share actually are a good thing for us. Churches continue to recover missing churchgoers, but we're still not back to pre-pandemic attendance numbers, of course. In September 2022, the typical weekend worship service attendance as a percentage compared to the prior pandemic was 65%. In August of 2022, that percentage rose to 85%. We as a church have done very well after pandemic. As a matter of fact, our percentage is probably above 85%, I think. The average age of a pastor in the United States is now 51 years old. That's the average age across the United States. People who claim to be Christian in the United States has fallen below 50%. Only 10 to 15% on average of the congregation tithes regularly. 10 to 15%. That's not true of us. Substantial growth in Christian universities, which was surprising to me, because it's very difficult to get pastors and students to take pastoral jobs. But the reason, apparently, for that rise in growth was the connection and unity that Christian universities provided, especially during COVID. And now that continues. The students are able to connect and have a sense of unity. So that makes any sense. Weekly church attendance is at 20%. That's down from 32% in 2000. Our percentage is higher than that. So I'm sharing these things because as a church we're doing fairly well. And I just want to say thank you for that.
Thank you, Dave. Are there any other questions or comments relative to the message of the minister? Church clerk report. Questions or comments? Page 15, we have the church council report. Any questions or comments on that report? What Art mentioned was that when it comes to restriping the parking lot, he'd like to have the spots a little bit wider, just to give the cars a little bit more room, make it easier to get in and out of the cars. And that project, my understanding, is scheduled for this spring, so we'll do that. Any other questions or comments? Discipleship and Outreach Committee. Questions or comments? Sandy?
Yes, I have two comments, please, since I was going to prepare the report. In the second paragraph, Josiah Carpenter Library, there's only one S in Josiah. And in that same paragraph, I neglected to put in the April 2024, $263 went to the homeless toiletries program. Those two corrections. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Minnie, are you all set on that?
No.
Okay. Could you say it one more time, Sandy?
Sure. In the second paragraph, Minnie, Josiah Carpenter Library, Josiah is misspelled. It needs one S, not two.
It's one S is one.
Oh, well, I'm looking at the wrong version then. Somebody corrected it for me. Thank you. All right, I'm looking at my rough draft. The other one is in April 2024, the homeless toiletries program was $263. I did not have a figure for that. So I guess that's the only change, because Josiah's right. Thank you. Yeah, I was mistaken about my mistake. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sandy. Any other questions or comments? Sue?
Yes, Susan Whitman. On the next paragraph, the soup for you, it says provide on the fourth Monday of each month. It's October through March, not each month.
Like I have trouble with that every year. Getting the calendar right.
So it's, what months again is it?
October through March. The 6 whole months a year.
All right. So Minnie, the third paragraph, first sentence, soup for you,
Yep.
it's the fourth Monday, October through March.
Which is tomorrow night, so everybody come.
Okay. What was the amount on that April 2024?
Sandy, what was the dollar amount for the,
263.
Did you get it? 263. Thank you.
any other questions or comments on the Discipleship and Outreach Committee's report? On page 12, we have the infant, toddler, and diaper pantry report. 17, sorry. And that's followed by, on page 18, their annual report of seniors. Okay, on both at the same time. Any questions or comments? Okay, on page 19, we have the missions account activity. Just as a side note, this account is overseen by the Discipleship and Outreach Committee. So, once again, on page 19, we have the mission account activity spreadsheet. Does anyone have any questions or comments on it? Going to page 20. We have the Worship and Music Committee report. Any questions or comments? Page 21, we have the Dorcas Guild report. Questions or comments? Page 22, we have the Finance and Administration Committee report. Questions or comments? On page 24, we have the report of the internal auditor. Questions or comments? '25 is the church treasurer's report, and that includes the scheduled assets and funds and balances shown in 27, as well as the sources of funds and resources of the general budget, which is shown on page 28. Before we get into the budget piece of it, the spreadsheets, are there any questions on the treasurer's written portion of the report on page 25? '27, once again, is the schedule of assets and fund balances. Are there any questions or comments on that spreadsheet? On page 28, we have the proposed budget for 2025, shown in the far right-hand column. Questions or comments? First, I'm going to ask, is there a motion to accept the budget as proposed shown on page 28 and 29? Stan has made the motion. Is there a second to that motion? Chris Ward has made the second. Questions or comments on this proposed budget? All those in favor of supporting the budget as presented, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The budget has passed. On page 30, we have the report of the nominating committee. Is there a motion to accept the report as presented? Art?
Place one ballot to approve the entire
There's a motion made by Art Morse to have one ballot presented to approve the entire, all positions on the report. Is there a second to that motion? Stan? Second. Who would you recommend cast the one ballot? Art? Was it your intent that the clerk cast that one ballot?
either way,
Okay.
since there's no one running this, just yes, no, was beyond good.
Okay. Beth?
On the worship and music, you have Linda
Stacy up here to the 27th. So that seems a little.
Oh, yeah, we got him. Davey knows what it says.
She survives the winter up here.
Yeah, I think that the dates here reflect the term, the official end of the term, regardless of where they may be personally. Any other questions or comments? Nella?
Nella Hobson, what do we do about the vacancies?
The bylaws are set up that committees that have vacancies, it's up to the church council to provide and try to fill those vacancies. So if anyone does have an interest in filling the numerous vacancies that are here, please talk to Reverend Dave or any member of the church council, and they can take that step to get you on that committee. Other questions or comments? Minnie?
I'd just like for people to think about, it won't be here, and I may or may not be here. People need to think about who's going to do the nominating for next year.
And I once again would follow the church council to make sure that the committees are filled, be that the nominating committee or someone else. So the motion is that we're going to have the clerk cast one ballot in support of the nominations that are outlined in the report. All in favor of that, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. So Minnie, we ask that you cast that one ballot in the affirmative. Is that correct? Okay, thank you. On page 31, and this is followed up on page 32 with some additional information, is the inactive member list, which we update periodically just to keep our roles current. And our role membership, and Dave, you might have to chime in here a little bit, is tracked by our membership in the UCCC and reflects upon how much they would like to see us get to support our portion of that organization. So, any questions or comments on the proposed inactive list shown on page 31? Kathy, you had a question, I believe.
I just wanted to know whether the responses from the letters that were sent out.
The letters have not been sent out yet because we are waiting for a response from this meeting as to whether everyone on that list is agreeable to this congregation. They are on that list based on bylaws, which states that they're not active in attendance or giving or communication in some way, that they would be removed. And once again, this is not kicking them out of the church or anything. It just means that they're not voting members now, but they can become an active member whenever they choose to. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, Kevin?
Carol Washington, Nancy Blackie, though she doesn't come to church, is very active in the advocacy.
So, what Carol pointed out is that Nancy Blackie, who does not attend church here on a regular basis, is very active on the diaper pantry.
I got a question. In CAA, we have to donate so much per person. Will these be brought from that?
Dave, can you expand on that?
As a member of the National Association of Congregational Christian Churches, we contribute a fair share for every member of the church, active member of the church, of $13.50 or something like that. So if we have 156 members and 40 of them or 50 of them are active, we're still paying for those inactive members, and therefore it's not correct for us to continue to do that. So we are making them inactive so we don't have to pay for that fee.
And this is something that the church has done for decades. Periodically, we go through and we just update those lists and keep it current. So this is not new and unique to this year. So the follow-up steps here, it sounds like, Dave, we'll vote on this today with possible exception of Nancy Blackie. It sounds like if the vote is in the affirmative, the next step will be to formally approach these members with the letter that you see on the back of the program. And if they do respond to that letter one way or another, that will keep them active, potentially.
Mary?
Yes?
The pride, the priest on Seminole Road, I know it would. Is it possible for me to go and talk to them? I mean, is that okay to try to do that or not?
I would personally think it'd be fine. I would think it'd be fine if you wanted to ask them if they could come to church. And if their responses are just not interested in coming longer, that Dave or I think Cindy, are you also involved in this?
Yes, I'll be.
Right. So you could also touch base with Cindy and just let her know.
Thank you.
What was that last question here?
The question was if one of the members that's shown as inactive here is all right if they're approached directly by another church member to ask them if they would be interested in coming back to the church or what their plans are. And the answer is yes, and to just let Cindy Moore or Dave know the response would be.
And who asked that?
I hate to say this, I'm drawing a blank. Linda's old. Sorry, Linda. I've talked to you 1,000 times. I've actually forgotten Ella's name too when I'm standing up here, so I hate to say it now. It's the stress of the job. No. Okay, any other questions?
So I guess here I'm clear. So by voting today, are we moving them to an active membership list, or are we voting to notify them that they're going to be moved to an active membership as of some date? If we don't hear from them as of that date, they will automatically be considered active.
The intent of the vote today is to note that these individuals are going to be receiving a letter noting that they're now being moved to the inactive list as shown back. Pending what their response is, they will be officially moved from the rolls. So all we're doing today is just saying, yes, this list makes sense to the congregation, we should move forward with it. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Dave?
The people that are not active in the church because they're invalids, can't come to church, they still donate. Those aren't being put on the inactive.
I don't believe so, no. So if they're still making financial contributions to the church, or even if they're watching remotely and they let us know that, that's fine. They're considered part of the church.
So if they watch it on YouTube, are you able to tell who's watching? Right. So you can track that.
Is that a question? I don't think we can tell. No.
Well, it'll also be addressed in the letter. So if by chance there's a question about who is watching or not, a lot of it we know because they've requested that they receive the link on a weekly basis, so we know that. But they also have a chance to respond through the letter saying, yes, we are watching.
Well, let me also say that if they subscribe to the channel, they are watching, and we know the names.
So everybody subscribe to the channel. We'll remain in good graces. Any other questions or comments? Ella?
Now, Hobson, if you don't hear from them, are you considering them then to be inactive? Says please let us know, but if you don't hear anything, and you just proceed to take them off the list.
Right. I mean, one possibility is we could add a date to that, say, please let us know by July 1st or something like that. I would leave that to Cindy and Dave to work out, but there's a presumption that if there's a period of silence there, they'll be removed.
And that's not removing them from church membership, just from active membership. So,
Any other questions or comments on this? All right, so all in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? This takes us to other business. We have a couple pieces of other business. At the last meeting of the church council, a nominating committee was put together to bring forward names for a pulpit search committee. There are 5 names listed on that as nominees. They are Stephen Small, Nella Hobson, Rocky Hart, Cindy Moore, and Bev Murdo. I'm going to ask you to vote on these just as you did for the previous nominating report. Are there any questions or comments relative to the makeup of the pulpit search committee? The 5 people are Stephen Small, Nella Hobson, Rocky Hart, Cindy Moore, and Bev Murdo. Art, is there a second on that motion?
say Kathy.
Yes. Any additional questions or comments on the pulpit search committee nominees?
I have a question. Is this for a permanent pastor, or is this search committee for an income?
Either or. So they're going to be directed to perform a search, ideally be for a full-time minister. If that does not pan out for one reason or another, then they'll be open and charged with looking at different alternatives, which they'll bring to the congregation. Any other questions or comments? The names are Stephen Small, Nella Hobson, Rocky Hart, Cindy Moore, Bev Murdo. Any other questions? Okay, there's a motion on the floor to accept this list of nominees. It's been seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? As the second to last official act of my role as moderator, I'm going to appoint Stephen Small as acting chairperson of this committee. And his role as acting chair will be to get the committee to meet for its first initial meeting and pull together any supporting material that may be needed to support that meeting. And then at that first meeting, there will be formal election of officers. So include the chairperson, the secretary, and any other officers they feel they may need. Other business, Art, do you have anything?
Thank you. I remember when Charlie Morgan left, I had known him since he was a little boy here in town. I coached him in baseball and so on, and I was extremely fearful that we were losing him as a pastor. My mind has completely changed. I am so glad that he left, and we got Dave Stasiak in his place. I think that even though he made the stupid mistake of moving from Florida to New Hampshire, that he did the right thing for us. And I think hand of the Lord was upon us, and this all happened. I could go on until the ball game starts this afternoon, telling all the things good about Dave, but I think most of you have experienced it on your own. We're going to hate to see him go, but we should encourage him to enjoy his retirement. Thank you, Dave.
Mike?
As a member of the congregation, I'd like to join us all to thank Eric for being an exemplary moderator all this time. We appreciate your expertise, your professionalism, and you're willing to kick us in the butt and get things done. Thank
you. Any other items to bring up today? As my official last act as moderator, I adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much.